in tonight's training, we're going to be talking with a student named Matt and talking about how he landed his first 2 co-hosting units in 6 weeks. Before we do, let me give you a quick background, who this is for. I'll give you a quick background about myself, and then we'll jump into Matt, who is the star tonight. So if you're brand new to the real estate world, brand new to Airbnbs, totally cool. If you're experienced co-hosting, owning, arbitrage, totally fine. We're going to be specifically talking about co-hosting tonight. So if you're eager to learn about co-hosting or growing your co-hosting business, then you're most definitely in the right place. Everyone gets into co-hosting for a different reason. We will be asking Matt later why he got into it. But everyone's reason is different. Some people, it's supplemental income, just wants another stream of income. Some people want to just quit their 9-to-5 job and go full-time in co-hosting. At the end of the day, I think it's fair to say we are all chasing financial freedom so that we can do whatever we want, whatever makes us happy. We're going to have a special announcement at the end, so stay tuned for that. We're also going to have a Q&A at the very end. So as we're going through, I know you guys are going to have questions. Jot them down. Feel free to throw them in the comment section or the chat box. We will get to them all at the end. I'm going to give a quick background about me. I promise you, we're not focusing on me tonight. We're focusing on Matt, but I want to give a quick intro for those of you guys who do not know me yet. Like I said, my name is Bailey. Quick background on how I got started with all this stuff is way back in my day when I was about 12 years old. The show Shark Tank was huge for me. And this was like the thing that got me into entrepreneurship. Then the thing that paired entrepreneurship with real estate was Rich Dad Poor Dad. Throw in the comment section below. Is anyone else big Shark Tank or Rich Dad Poor Dad fan? I know I can't be the only one. Matt, are you a fan of either of these?
Absolutely.
All right, love it. Cool. Okay. We got some people in the chat box, in the comment section who are also fans. Love to see it. So yeah, those are 2 huge resources for me. When I was in college, I spent a whole year after I read Rich Dad Poor Dad just learning and networking with people until I finally landed my very first real estate deal. This is up me on the top right, about actually an hour north of where Matt is. This is in Illinois. People always ask me, Bailey, how do you get that deal at 19? Or it's either 19 or 20 years old. And the truth of the matter is I used direct-to-seller marketing strategies to find them and creative financing to fund them. In normal terms, I got really scrappy with it. And the things I didn't have, like money, credit score, experience, I leveraged other people and used the power of networking to fill the gaps. And then a couple pictures of me over the next 4 months. These are a couple of the properties that I bought. I have to make this joke, but my favorite color is blue. This was not planned. I just always I'm always wearing a blue shirt. But here's me in front of a couple of the properties that I bought, again, while still a junior in college. So the first 2 properties that I bought were fix and flips. They were cool. It was kind of my first experience. And I wouldn't say my last experience in fix and flips, but I'm definitely not a fan of them. They netted me some nice money, my first real money that I've ever made, but nothing crazy. The next 2 properties that I bought were long-term rentals. This is actually one of them here. I still have them to today. They still cash flow decently nice, a couple $100 from each of them, but really not life-changing. The thing that was life-changing for me was when I fell into my first Airbnb property, which is called what we call the estate. It's this property up here. And then this is what really kicked it off for me. And then these are a couple of the other properties that I co-host. So right now I have 30 Airbnb properties that I co-host. I didn't at the time, but I now have the tools, the processes, and the systems to do everything remotely as well. So right now I'm in North Carolina. Only 2 of my units are in North Carolina. So doing things remotely has been my focus. These 30 units are projected to bring in a total of $1.7 million this year in revenue. That's total. Of course, as a co-host, I get a percentage of that. So after paying my 3 employees, my take home will be $135,000 for the year, roughly $11,000 per month. I started this. I got my first listing live July 1st of 2021, but I didn't get my first co-hosting client until late November. Because to be honest with you, I didn't even know what co-hosting was until I actually got into it. But so it's been technically less than a year since I actually got serious about the co-hosting business. This is by no means a get rich quick game at all. It takes a lot of work. And we're going to talk about Matt's journey as well. And he knows it too. There's work involved. But on the same note, it is a business that is very scalable because it doesn't require really any money up front. Cost of an LLC is just about it. Again, we're going to talk about Matt, how he actually got paid for his first Airbnb deal, which is pretty cool. But it's super scalable. It's super possible to scale fast. Of course, it takes work. But I've really only been at it for really a little less than a year, called a little bit more than a year. And it's just crazy, the potential. So I want to go quickly over what co-hosting is. I promise it's going to be brief, just for those of you who don't exactly know what co-hosting is. We're going to go over this and then we'll turn it over to Matt. So co-hosting is essentially property management for short-term rentals. You handle the day-to-day operations for an owner so that they can sit back and relax and do whatever they want. I have some owners that have no interest in real estate, really. They just want like a second house. I have some owners who like the tax benefits and the cash flow, but they have no interest in the operations. Most of the owners I work with are out of state as well. So they just don't really have an interest in managing the day-to-day. People always ask, how do you get paid as a co-host? You get a percentage of the gross revenue, typically between 15 and 20%. Again, we'll talk about what percentage Matt got for his first deal as well. Couple reasons why I like co-hosting. It takes little money up front, really just the cost of an LLC to get started. For that reason, it's super scalable. There's really no ongoing expenses. The owner pays for everything, and you just get a percentage of the revenue. Doesn't take a lot of time to manage either. Once the property's set up, automation does a lot of the work. So that's another awesome piece to it. And then also it can be done from anywhere. So you don't have to be 2 minutes away from your property. You can be a plane ride away. You can be really as far away as you want. I do recommend kind of being on a similar time zone just for messaging purposes, but realistically, you do not need to be at the property. All right. So now let's jump in and introduce Matt Thomas. Matt is a realtor in Chicago. He's a rock star realtor. That's like an understatement. I'll let him give an intro to himself as well. But Matt joined, I don't know how long it's been now since he joined our program, probably
I want to say it was August, September. I mean, August. It can't be more than a few months, right?
September, October. Yeah. 2-ish months ago, we'll call it, give or take. And now you're at 2 co-hosting units. I definitely want to talk about that. But go ahead, Matt, give yourself an intro, kind of give a background about yourself, who you are, and then we'll get into the co-hosting stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. So as you mentioned, and by the way, it's incredible. I know your life story and I've seen it, but to hear you lay it out, it's like awesome. Congrats again on success. Super cool to see.
Appreciate it.
On my end, I'm Matt Thomas. I'm a real estate agent full-time here in Chicago. So I have a full-time real estate business that I run day to day, helping clients buy, sell, rent, manage investments here in Chicagoland. On the side, I also now manage Airbnbs. So I have a duplex property that I'm managing in Peoria, Illinois. For those of you that don't know, Peoria is not all that close to Chicago. It's about 3 hours, 2:45 maybe. So we're setting up the top unit now. We're just about done getting that set up and we're about to take it live. And then downstairs, we're wrapping up some contractor work and going to bring that on market as well.
Cool. Awesome. So Matt, I got a lot of questions for you. First and foremost, I guess, why did you get involved in co-hosting? What was it for you that made you interested in co-hosting? Because I know you've been crushing it as a realtor. Like, what made you say, I want another stream, I want to get in co-hosting?
So first and foremost, my brain is probably to an unhealthy extent living in real estate all day, right? Whether I'm thinking about where I'm going to live, how I'm going to own my investments, where I want to invest, my clients' real estate, I literally swim in properties all day. So it was just a matter of thinking about, okay, what revenue streams do I see as options within real estate? And what I was looking for, so the downside of what I do, real estate, is it's heavy involvement on me. So if I take me out of the equation, my business suffers, right? And even if I scale a team, the way that I'm branded currently is ultimately the business does suffer if I remove myself. So what I was looking for is, how do I establish a secondary income stream where, yes, I am still the crux of it, but I don't have to physically be there to manage it. And that's the difference. If I have to do a showing, I have to go open the door with these hands and show up. I don't have to do that managing a property from afar, but the skill set's the same. I mean, the way that I treat a property that I'm managing for somebody who needs STR assistance is exactly the same as advice I would be giving to an owner who's seeking to place their first tenant or seeking help through certain issues, right?
Right. Cool. And it could be the same. Someone who's looking to place their first tenant could be, actually, you know what? I could actually make this an Airbnb instead of just doing a long-term rental as well.
Absolutely. We have that conversation all the time. What would the numbers look like side by side, short term, midterm, long term? So for me, it was like adding a new tool to the tool belt that I already offer and just expanding the services. Felt like a natural fit, except it was one where I don't have to show up. I don't have to be there every time something goes wrong.
Love it. How did you get in? Like, how did you even learn about co-hosting? Were you just searching social media? Like, how did you even find out about the idea of co-hosting?
You might get credit for that one. Truly and sincerely. I think original knowledge for me about co-hosting specifically came from you. I had been watching you talk and explain how the different levels of strategies, and I had long been looking for an Airbnb investment for myself, buy it, rent it out, manage it on Airbnb. Kind of missed the wave of low interest rates to really pick that up when I wanted to. But then all of a sudden I watched your programming and I'm thinking, oh, wait, I don't have to buy it. Let's find somebody who didn't miss that wave and then help them do it.
Right.
And I think I know there was a video that you made at some point that talked about just the true pain in all of this is that people don't want to manage their property, right? It's like the idea, the Airbnb approach, there's really not much wrong with it in many marketplaces. The pain involved is the people actually having to manage it. I was like, oh, I could offer that, you know?
Right. And sometimes it's also like the limiting belief. People are like, well, I'm all the way over here. I can't even do it. And it's like,
right.
That's like, you actually can, but if you really don't think so, I'll do it for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you think of the specific tasks that are needed to manage what we do, very little of it would ever involve me physically doing anything, right? It's team. The team you put in place is critical to success. That was the only reason I was willing to take on something in Peoria, is because I'm confident down to when a package gets delivered at the doorstep in Peoria, and I don't want it to get stolen overnight because package thefts are a real thing. I have somebody who goes and puts it inside, right? Like you have to have the people on the ground to help make it successful.
For sure. For sure. So just to move along the storyline, you found out about co-hosting, social media. I'll give myself a little bit of credit for that. What happened next? Like before you even joined the program, was co-hosting something that you were trying to do by yourself? Was it something you were just kind of looking at? What happened?
I think I got the idea before I joined the program. I understood the idea. Okay, approach a property owner who's managing Airbnb, offer your assistance, take it off their plate, get paid a fee. Great. Conceptually, I'm with it. It's just like when I got into real estate, I got my license and I understand it functionally, but then somebody was like, now go sell something. I was like, I have no clue where to go next. So the course for me was really like the path of, okay, I have an idea. I'm committed to making the idea work, which I think is a big part of anything you're going to invest in. And I just need somebody to show me where to go. And that's what I felt like that was. So investing in the course was the pointing in the direction. And I mean, I'll admit that I hit it hard. You know, we have a whole prospecting strategy that we're doing to contact owners off market. And I was really trying to get my calendar filled with as many conversations as possible. And in the background, I was making it known with the other group members that this is something that I'm doing. I'm active. I'm growing my business. I also communicated where I was, Chicagoland. That's where I service. And ultimately, I mean, I know where this question is headed, but that's how I met this client, right? It was referred through the group. She wanted regional coverage for Peoria, which is really just like Illinois or in the Midwest. And that's what I am. I'm a resource that can provide that. So that's how I was matched with Renee, and now we're up and running.
Yeah, for sure. So to take a step back a little bit, because obviously we mentioned you have two units in Peoria, which is awesome. I guess take it just a step back a little bit. We can go to, I guess, even just meeting Renee. Like, talk about you found this client via referral. That's something we do a lot in the groups. Whenever me specifically, like I get truthfully, I wouldn't say a lot, a good amount of people who reach out to me and say, "Hey, Bailey, can I, can you co-host my property in like Virginia and like random places?" And a lot of the times I say no, because that's just not my area. So with Renee, yeah, kind of a very similar situation. Hey, do you coast in Peoria? I'm like, actually, I don't, but I got someone who definitely can help you out there.
Well, and part of that for me was taking a risk and saying yes. When it first was proposed to me, I thought about it and I said, all right, Peoria is a little bit farther away. It's not
Yeah.
next door. It's not 5 minutes, but worst case, if I did need to go make an appearance at the property, like I said, it's 2 hours, 45 minutes. So I could go get it done in a day. And
Right.
that was really where I settled on it. Everybody's going to have their own comfort level. You made a great point. Managing your time zone makes your life easier, I'm
Yeah.
sure. But particularly for your first, my decision was really just have it close enough that even in the back of my mind to help me sleep better at night, I could drive there if I had to. Whether I ever do or not, it's close, right?
Right. That's actually something that I see like quite a lot. Like when people, going to like back to your first point of, when people are presented the opportunity, it's still like, whether they find it, we have plenty of students who find their first one. We have plenty of students that find, get referrals or whatnot. But that moment is like, oh shoot, like I got someone on my hands. Like this is crazy. It's kind of like that moment of
Right.
like, I've been thinking about this idea of how to make money this way and how this would work. And then it's like, oh shoot, like this is actually happening right now.
Exactly. Yeah. And I do think, particularly when the conversation came, I mean, like the contact was referred to the group, but then now I have to go sell them on the fact that I can actually do this, which was a whole different
Yeah.
thing. Right. So like I was introduced to Renee. I decided mentally that I would manage in Peoria. And I'm like, okay, let's have the conversation. Then it was like, what do I say? Right. Like, what do I do in the background? And I think for me, where I drew confidence early on and where I would encourage everyone else who's like thinking about it to draw confidence was I just came back to the skill sets that I had and then trusted the fact that the group had already served me well, referenced the group again, right? I didn't hide the fact that this was going to be my first foray into doing this myself. I just leveraged the fact that I'm working with a group of motivated people who are mentoring me through the process and are already managing a large number of properties.
Yeah.
And by referencing that, I felt like it completely alleviated any sense of fear of lack of knowledge I'm sure it doesn't help if you Google me. I have umpteen articles about real estate, so you can tell what I do. But I do think that just having the group buy in for me early on was leverage just to get a position in the deal to be like, look, I can do this and I'd love to take your properties on.
For sure. And that word leverage, like even when I first started, even before my Airbnb days, because I fell into it. Like I shared with the property called The Estate. Before that, I had to raise money, find deals. And I was also like 19, 20 years old at the time. But what I did have is I joined a program back in my, I guess not back in my day, like 2 years ago. And instead of saying like, hey, my name is Bailey, I have zero real estate experience at all, and I'm interested in this, it was, hey, my name is Bailey. I have, a team, a mentor, a community of people
Exactly.
who have, I mean, honestly, with any business, I have a friend in a completely different industry, like more of like a marketing niche, and he's doing the same exact thing. He joined a community, and instead of him starting from scratch, having no idea what to say to a potential prospect, whether it's a property owner in this case or whatever, I've seen just the community aspect be huge in literally any industry.
Of course, it gives you so much confidence, and you never lie and you never want to hide what you're actually doing, and you don't want to overstate what your business is. Don't tie yourself to people that you're not really tied to,
Right, of
right?
course.
But at the same token, I think that when you're coming into this, I did it when I started in my real estate career too. My gosh, I had nothing to talk about when I was early on. So I would go sit at other people's listings and talk about those, right? And it wasn't my listing, but it was real estate, and seeing me practice was a way to grow my business. And I think this is the same concept. It's not my management, but they are being managed using the system I'm going to deploy.
Right.
So if you like that, that's what I can deliver. And I think that's the message, right? It's about the system, the processing, the mentorship, the access to resources in the background. You coming with that full package when you're sitting down with the prospect is enticing in and of itself. What it does, frankly, is I was able to get in and have it from nothing. If I had just gone off on my own and randomly cold called people and connected with homeowners, I could have set up meetings. I have no doubt. I'm a professional cold caller when it comes to it, but I don't know what I would have pitched, right? And I think what having this was able to do is to give me the background to position. I mean, I'm still, as I'm talking to you with properties under management, I don't have a website. I don't have referrals or like reviews online. I have had other property owners contact me for management. We've met. Some of them I thought it wasn't a good fit based on what they wanted. Others were in discussion, right? But this sort of feeds itself. And particularly now I have people in Peoria calling left and right, like, hey, would you offer? I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to become a full-time Peoria property manager. But I will say that, once you get one, you can build on that success however you want to. But I think the bigger proof is that you need a little bit of a system or something to present to get one. And this is what gave it to me.
For sure. It's all about the power of one, for sure. I'm curious, I know that your main business is being an agent. I'm curious to know, when you first started that side of your business or your business, your realtor business, how did you get your first listing, like all by yourself? Just kind of your quick story about how you got the one for what now is a huge business for you, which is your realtor business.
It's funny because I actually think these two veins align very well. I'm huge on branding. And I think the way that you brand yourself, particularly through social media, which is the easiest free way to reach the most eyeballs in the world, you should be on there talking about what you do. So if I was sitting down, and actually when I did get into real estate, I was like, I'm going to hit social media hard. And I was posting on, at that time, it was LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram all the time, letting people know what I did. My first client, my first listing was actually my old boss who I resigned from in the corporate world. He sent me a message on LinkedIn, said he'd been seeing that I've been posting, saw that I was active, had a need, and I helped him sell a commercial space in Old Town Chicago.
Great.
So I think that like that story could apply here. Had I, wanted to, or still really could, if I chose to, just deployed an entire branding strategy of making it known that I manage short-term rentals. And I have actually shared with my network that I'm starting to set this property up, and I've let them in on it a little bit. And the response has been great. People wrote, where is this property? What are you buying? What's on your necessities list for an Airbnb furniture? Like everybody's curious, right? So I do think whether it was real estate or with short-term rentals, establishing a brand of that's what you do in either is a great way to meet. Maybe it's low-hanging fruit, the people who are already looking for it, right? Yeah. And they just need to see that you do it.
For sure. And the simplest way, because kind of sounds like a brand, holy moly. The simplest way is literally just talking and posting and telling people what you do. That's really the start of a brand.
Totally.
Add on to that, but it's literally like it doesn't have to be, you don't have to have a crazy logo. You don't have to have any logo. It's literally just telling people what you do. The people like back in high school that I went to high school with, they do not, I mean, now they do because they see me on social media, but they didn't know me as the real estate guy back then. It's really like, I see it as like an identity thing. It's like, you got to embody an identity. Like, and when people think of you, you are the real estate guy. And that could be in a broad sense. That could be like, damn, Matt can do it. Matt can be my realtor. He could also manage my Airbnb. He can do a lot. For others, it might be like, for me, I don't brand myself on the realtor side. There's no right or wrong. I'm just the Airbnb guy. So
see, you're the first person I think of when I think of like, oh, Airbnb or co-hosting. Oh, it's Bailey, right? And it's like, so you branded yourself there. And so I do think that pays off. That's why, I was able to come to you. That's why the other people have. I think in my real estate career, that's why people have been drawn to me. But branding too, is I think it's just how you represent yourself. Social media, take it off the plate, right? But figure we're all on Facebook. We're probably using it to some extent. Yeah. But if you take it off the plate, just the way you reflect in conversations, I changed my entire mindset when I met people from being like, the question used to come, what do you do professionally? And I would say, well, I'm a real estate agent. Now I've changed my mindset. So I'm a real estate agent. I also manage short-term rentals. Just adding that little and, all of a sudden the people are like, oh, I have a short-term rental here, blah, blah, blah. And we start talking about it. And whether it's an opportunity or not, whether it's money-making or not, just putting it out there, you get the conversation going, but you have to like 100%. Think about how you rebrand yourself.
100%. One last thing, that I know we're beating this point. One last thing I want to mention about this, because just talking to someone about this, and then I want to get into to the first deal you're working on now, is when I first started and I was 19, I just read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I was all pumped up about it. And I was starting to basically message people on Bigger Pockets and different Facebook groups. And when I talked to them, my story first started, hey, my name is Bailey and I'm interested in real estate. Then it was, hey, my name is Bailey, I'm interested in Airbnb, or I'm interested in multifamily. Then it was like, hey, my name is Bailey, I have one Airbnb. And then it was, hey, my name is Bailey, so the story, like your brand is always going to evolve. And just starting as, hey, I'm interested in Airbnbs is already a huge step in the right direction. People are always afraid, like, I don't have any right now. So like, I can't say like I have any. Obviously, don't lie. If you don't have any, you don't have any. That's fine. But just to say, hey, my name is Bailey and I'm interested in Airbnbs, that's already a huge step in the right direction as far as branding, identity, and just when you're talking to people at meetups, or if you're in Facebook groups, wherever you are, talking to people, family, friends, just telling people, listen, I'm interested in Airbnbs. I want to get involved in co-hosting. I want to get involved in short-term rentals, whatever it is. That's a huge first step.
People love talking about this stuff too. If you introduce, they'll go nuts. They'll do good, bad, ugly, whatever. They're going to tell you. So if you just tell them that you're interested in, or that you work with, or you manage Airbnbs or short-term rentals, just shut up after and listen. I mean, they're going to talk for like the next 5 minutes. For sure.
So Matt, fill me in, or I know the details, but fill everybody else in on the details of this first, the two co-hosting units. Kind of walk through the numbers of the deal. First, I guess what the negotiations were on the front end, and then we'll get into setting the property up, team, all that fun stuff.
So I've done this long enough in real estate to know that when I'm checking for fit with clients, it's on both sides. So when Renee and I sat down and we had that conversation initially, my mindset was on, what is she trying to accomplish and can I realistically service it? And our goal with this property, or these properties, I should say, in Peoria, is mid-term rentals. So not short-term, 2-3 night stays, weekends. It's going to be 30 to 90 day stays, really targeting, in some cases, it may be students because it's across from Bradley University. It's furnished. It could be a good housing location if they need it. But more realistically, it's going to be traveling nurses, traveling sales reps, and traveling business professionals. There's a number of headquarters. CAT has facilities there. There's a couple of larger hospital systems there in Peoria or in the surrounding areas. So our target was midterm rentals. So once we established that, we talked about it, and I said, okay, I understand the plan. I feel comfortable with that. We laid out a plan. It's 2 units. So I did charge a slightly higher fee for Renee. Part of this whole process, there's a setup fee or tech fee, or you can call it whatever you want, but it's really just a fee to help cover fees that I incur as we set up the property for managing subscriptions and installing technology and things like that. So that was a $2,000 fee that Renee paid direct to me for setup of the properties. And then we also agreed to an ongoing management fee of 20%. So 20% of the monthly operating revenue. Each month, she'll be invoiced, and that's my operating fee. And then we have an agreement in place where just by nature of where these properties are in the process, I'm truly taking them at basically mid-construction and contracting phase, empty, all the way to market. So Renee has given me credit card authorization to do a number of things, including purchasing furniture, purchasing technology, managing contractor invoices, hiring runners, you name it. We've got a million things going on at all times.
Love it. So first, I know what people are thinking, Matt, 20%, your first deal. Like I talked to.
Worth it. Are you kidding me?
I know that. But I think a big misconception is like, your first deal, you got to scoop down to 15%, right? Like you got to maybe even 10% just to work your way in, or, 20%. That's just, I don't even want to shoot for it because I'm brand new. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I have a commission conversation a lot in life. I think that if you're going to charge a premium it should be for superior service. So the reason I'm confident in extending 20% is because I've seen the systems that I'm going to help them in managing this property from where we're at now to when we're actually going live, and we're going to bring it live. I've seen the return that they're going to be making compared to if she just turned this on and rented it out on an average monthly rental versus what I can help her do, even pessimistically, with a short to midterm rental. And I feel confident that the delta there, my client walks away making great money. I walk away with comfortable money based on the services provided. and everybody's happy, right?
Yeah.
So in my mind, I don't think that you really need to sacrifice up front. I mean, if you get into a push comes to shove conversation and they really aren't going to proceed at 15%, then you have a conversation with yourself on what is acceptable to you.
Right.
But I'm not a fan really ever of sacrificing commission based on the services offered.
Right. Right. For sure. Talk about the resources that you use from the program, basically from time of her saying, all right, I'm in for 20% at $2,000 setup fee until I guess where you're at now. What tools and resources did you leverage in the program to kind of do what you're doing now?
Yeah,
I mean,
tell them. I was so sorry. I was just so excited for Matt. Okay, go ahead, Matt.
no, I was gonna say I love it. I truly like the program has been like start to finish how I've done a lot of this stuff. And one that I've used, one particular sheet that isn't part of this program that may be worth the cost of the program just on its own is the furniture sheet. Just like what should be populated in a property and like what goes in every room down to silverware in the kitchen and like things I never would have thought of, placemats for the dining tables. And like, there's just so many death by 1,000 paper clips, right? Like it's just, you got to work through it. So I use from there, I've been using the furniture sheets to help me build sheets. I used your tips on how to find a runner. Some of the tips on how to find great resources locally that could be trusted specifically. That was a big deal for me. I've used all the technology tips. We have Bluetooth locks that I control from afar. We've got Ring doorbells, so I know who's standing there and who's not. Noise sensors are on the way, so those are going to get installed this week. So yeah, I mean, and also even down to like when I signed the contract I signed was a template that I got from the course, right? So I think from start to finish, what the course gave me was the blueprints of a successful SDR management business. And then I inserted my brand, my approach, myself into it, right? It's like a plug and play model to deliver a good business structure.
Yeah.
And then I just wanted to clarify one thing. When Matt says course, it's a mentorship program. So he's not just, I just want to clarify
we talk
that for
weekly.
everyone.
I'm sorry. I think of it as a course just because I look at the stuff like every day, like I'm studying. Yeah. But yes, I'm on weekly calls with Bailey and with Claire, and I'm constantly texting you guys like, hey, what would you do in this situation? And like the number of audio messages, I wish I had my phone. The number of audio messages we send back and forth to each other is like, it's absurd. But yeah, it's amazing. Thank you for clarifying, Claire.
Yeah, no, of course. I just want to say there are courses out there, kind of set it and forget it, right? Analysis paralysis. But like this whole thing, we succeed only by your success, right? So it's like we're so involved in your journey. So I just wanted to preface that as like you're paying for the access. You're paying for the access to us to ask anything that happens throughout the whole process, because there are so many nuances down to the point where we were discussing, well, how much you should get paid for the setup, right? How much your fee should be, because there are so many different structures, and we want to make sure at the end of the day that you're paid properly. That's like the biggest priority, that you're getting paid properly for the value. But yes, I did want to just clarify that it's the access is, we try to respond as soon as possible to you guys.
For
so.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
And even like, I think another thing that I think people just starting out don't understand, and rightfully so, I wouldn't understand it either. I didn't understand it actually at first, is the setup fee. Because even if Matt, you were like, you know what, I understand how to get a co-hosting client. I think I can do it. I think I can just pull myself through. Like I have some real estate experience. Even if you did that and you got a client, right, to be honest with you, I don't think you would have understood the setup fee piece of it. And I don't think a lot of people, I wouldn't have for sure, to know that one, I need to charge a setup fee. Two,
right,
how much I should even make the setup fee. We had another student who went through the same exact thing where she was we told her, like, we gave her the idea of a setup fee. She's like, okay, I'm going to do it. And then she thought her setup fee should be like $500 for this one property. And I think it ended up being like, I want to say like $3,300. She was doing like some extra design and stuff. Yeah. So the setup fee piece alone is like, if you miss the ball on that, that could be the difference between $0 and $2,000+. Sometimes like the setup fee is less depending on what you're doing, of course, but
absolutely,
you got to know what it's got to be. So that's another piece where we don't really have a standard pricing sheet where it's like, if you do this, it's this much money. It's so situational. So that's what I mean. I'd like going to Claire for those questions, because she knows, she understands the pricing better than I do, of like, what is this? What is the value of this service that you're providing?
Yeah.
So that's another
Wait,
big
can I
piece.
add one more thing, Bailey?
No.
I just want no, okay. But yes, no, pricing is like so important to me
Yeah.
because you have to be paid for your value and your worth. But I wanted to say also for people who love interior design, it is such an incredible combo for co-hosting because you can not only make money on the interior design, the setup, right? And the managing, the ongoing management. So Matt did not design this property, right? So he could have even gotten so much more if he did the nitty gritty design of the property. You know, he helped with some little stuff, but he didn't full on design this property to get paid for his time.
Yeah, and we discussed that. You know, if she wanted, I offered basically I could do almost like a standard template of like, this is some general furniture that I would advise and a layout, or we could do some specific design work and like, you know, down to the artwork and how we're going to match the rugs. And, you know, she chose to forego that the latter path, and that's fine. So that was why I think, you know, I think I saw a comment come through the chat, 2000, you know, holy hell, how'd you get that? But for me, I was thinking about this is a more complex setup. She's got 2 units on a rolling basis. So we're going to have, it's double the work on everything. I have to do everything twice. I can't order things in bulk at once because they're on a rolling basis. So I'm going to have to basically do it in 2 rounds. And then on top of it, you know, I was looking at just the actual involvement that I was going to take to get to that point before furniture and everything else. We've got contractors still ongoing and things like that. So for me, I felt like 2000 was justified for the amount of work that I realistically expected to be managing in setting up these 2 units. And to your point, you know, I guess each operator has to make that that decision based on how intensive the property is.
Yep, for sure. So Matt, catch us up to like what's happening right now with the property, like, and like kind of the setup process, like what's been going on. You mentioned like owner gave you authorization for their credit card. You had yourself a shopping spree on furniture. Like what is that process like?
Absolutely. So I had went to basically design the property first online, just using like a brief template. Like Claire said, I didn't do any intensive design strategy, but figured out exactly what we were going to order and sent my client a list of all the furniture and said, look, this is what it's going to take, I think, to get it start to finish. With your approval, I'll start ordering things. So once the contractors were out of the unit, at least the dust and things were cleaned up, then immediately started putting in furniture, right? Started actually putting it in place, building it out. So everything is set up in the unit right now. Utilities are on, Wi-Fi is turned on, the locks are installed, the Ring doorbells are in. Pretty much the only thing that we're waiting on at this point is we've got some blinds that need to be installed. Those are going in next week. And then I also have some just like the tiny contractor work that every owner operator will deal with in life. But you know, we need a shower rod in a bathroom, and I've got a vent that broke that I need to clear. And I think we have an ungrounded electric wire that I have an electrician coming to fix. So right now we're truly in the odds and ends before realistically, I'm going to try to get a photographer out there for at least the first unit by the end of this month. My goal is to beat Halloween with photos for unit 1, if possible.
Love it. And I see we have a ton of questions coming in. Keep firing away at the questions. We are going to answer everything at the very end. So keep throwing those questions down below. We will get to them. I promise you. So Matt, you mentioned the setup process, the furniture, handyman work, all this stuff. What have you actually been doing? Have you been the one setting up the furniture? Have you been the one doing all this stuff, or what does the team look like?
It depends. You know, I chose to actually go to the property one day, see it. It was like, you know, I feel like I want to go be there. I hadn't been to Peoria. It's like, let's do it. So I took a day, I went with the girlfriend and I went out there. So I did, when I was there, I built some furniture that was left over and got, I think there was a doorbell lock that I set up and some other loose ends. But really, for the most part, I've been managing this all from afar. I have a runner. I have a runner, and then I have somebody who's helping with the more labor intensive stuff. So the runner is somebody who really, it's like, hey, package got delivered. I just saw it on the Ring doorbell. Can you go put it inside? Right. And then we're just selling them after it's done. And then the other one I have is a contact who, technically speaking, could be doing like handyman work for me. But at this point, really has just been doing plug and play stuff. We need the television mounted, or we need the couch built and put together, or I need you to go because the lock's not responding. Can you go move the Wi-Fi? Right. It's like little tiny things.
And how do you find those people, by the way?
I got lucky. We have all these strategies that you share to the group, and I won't like, reveal the secret sauce or anything, but I will say that I did get pretty active in posting in Facebook groups. And my messaging was really simple. I figured I would take the complex stuff offline, but it was basically like, I'm setting up a new rental in Peoria. I need all sorts of contacts. If you provide any sorts of labor, maintenance, cleaning, lawn care, whatever, please send me a note and I'd love to have your info. So the result of that is I got cleaners, landscapers, painters, handyman, contractors, you name it, in-betweens, people being like, what the hell do you want me to do? I can do anything. So I just kept all those people. I collected a name or a list of names, I should say, and then started to contact them until I found somebody I felt comfortable with. I talked to him on the phone, I made sure it was all cool. And so my runner, she's a mom of 4. She lives in a duplex that she's trying to buy. Actually, she's renting in it and she wants to try and buy it. So like, she's got a good story. Every time I pay her, she says I'm donating to the duplex fund. So I was like, oh yeah, this is cool. Like I found somebody who I felt good working with and that I trust to actually go do what they say they're going to do.
Yeah, for sure. Before, I guess you got involved in coasting and joined the program, what was your perception, if you even had any, or even thought of the idea of like performing real estate services completely virtual, like being able to find somebody in 3 hours away, talking to them over the phone, be like, yeah, I feel comfortable with you. Here's the door code to this house. Like,
yeah.
How were you comfortable with that before? You learned about coasting before you joined the program? Was that something you've always been comfortable with, or was that something you kind of just learned as you went? Or
it's funny. I was so uncomfortable with it. I actually defaulted back to my real estate knowledge. So like I started by calling other realtors in Peoria, and I was like, hey, if I gave you a lockbox code, would you go put packages inside a front door for me and I'll pay you? And basically they were all like, dude, I'm busy. I don't need this. But I was a little worried. I was like, it's a stranger and I'm far away and I don't want to, God forbid something gets stolen or broken or vandaled or whatever, like a lot could go wrong. So yes, it was foreign and uncomfortable to me. But the more I've gotten into it, I think the more I'm figuring out that just like anything else, there are people out there who A, need employment right now, but B, that will do and want to do really good work. They just need the opportunity. So as long as you are vetting them appropriately, there's plenty of people who can go do the work as opposed to you doing it.
For sure. I think that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions is like, how can I do this remotely? Like, okay, if I can do it remotely, like, how do I find people who are going to be the ones doing it? It's like and even when I started too, because when I first started my first property, I happened to be in the same city, but I was moving to Florida like in literally less than 2 months after my first property went live. So I started being my own runner and it was terrible. But then when I moved, I was like, I have no choice but to do it remotely. And then I kept on doing more properties and started coasting more properties. And all I knew after that first one was how to do it remotely. And then now that's like, I don't even know how, like, it almost seems, I wouldn't say it's hard. I would say it's a little bit harder, honestly, to do it in your backyard, because then you're like, I'll just run over there. And I gotta say,
probably more labor intensive. Yeah. Cause you just default to, I'll just go do it.
I'll just go do it. Right? And sometimes it's fun. Sometimes it's a little fun for like your first hour or two.
What you're doing. Go build furniture for 9 hours and tell me if you want to do it again, but it's one of those things. And keep that in mind too. This is just a good business practice, but I always try to keep that in mind when I'm offering what to pay people, right? Like I build furniture for 9 hours. I know how my back feels after. I know how labor intensive it is. So when you're paying these contractors, you don't need to overpay by any means. We're running a business, but make sure it is fair and equitable because they're doing you a big service.
For sure. And that's something too, with just honestly collaboration with the community. This is something I even collaborate with people with, because although I do have the most amount of properties in the community, I'm still learning from everybody. So it's always interesting to hear from you and other people, like, what did you pay this person to assemble the entire furniture for this unit? Because I've seen that it's completely different depending on the different markets. Even my cleaners, like I was talking to my cleaner today, she has different expectations versus this cleaner versus everyone's kind of in their own.
Right. Each look like if you had Wayfair build it, right? Their professional put together fee, like how many hundreds of dollars is that compared to what you want to pay, right? Yeah. So like, there's a lot of ways you can backtrack into it, but crowdsourcing is a great way.
For sure. And then, like you said, even like using your referral network in Peoria. Now we don't have anyone in the program from Peoria, so there's no one to ask specifically for that. But even just using your own realtor network to dig in, to try to find people as a start for sure.
I will say a specific story, you have to be prepared to act on your feet, and it does help to have these resources, if not all of them established, to at least have an idea of who you're going to call. So like something that happened to us last week, my runner went to the property. She was there. She was going to help me with one of the Wi-Fi locks because it wasn't responding and I couldn't figure out why. Well, I figured out why. She got inside and the power was off to the whole building. So like while she was there to fix something, now the power's off and we can't correct it. So she's on the phone with me. I ended up having to call the power company. They had to send somebody out, make sure that the power was coming to the building. Then I had to call our contractor to come and turn the power back on at the main. And then I had to get her back out later in the day to actually do what she started to do earlier in the day, right? So like sometimes it's literally a calamity of errors and you're just making a lot of phone calls. But I think the point of that is like, I don't know that I could have gotten through that day if I wouldn't have just been prepared with the resources. My runner, I knew what they needed. I know who the power supply company is in case that ever were to go wrong. We have a contractor actively engaged who can go touch the electrical panel, right? Like you need to know the people who can physically go do things for you. And it's not always great in terms of timing. Like I said, we're waiting 2 weeks for blinds and 2 weeks for an electrician, and you can't change the marketplace. But if you know the right people, you put yourself in a better spot to succeed.
For sure. For sure. Now, Matt, the question that everyone wants to know from these 2 units, estimation, obviously they're not live just yet. But do you have an estimate of how much money they're going to bring in and how much money you are going to be making from these 2 Airbnb units?
Yeah. So running the comps. So if we're just doing all the numbers in Peoria, if you were going to rent, they're both 2-bed units. If you're going to rent a 2-bed unit, just regular, like 12-month lease, that's about $850 to $900 a month to rent a 2-bed. For the short-term rentals, short-term furnished, we're seeing 2-beds starting around $25 to $27.50. So I think that's going to be our goal. Optimistically on the upstairs unit, because it is nicer, it's larger, it's got a formal dining room. The upside on that would be about $3,000. Again, we're going to, let's just say 2,500 for both units. So it should be bringing in $5,000 a month in total revenue. And then my take home is 20%. So I should be making about $1,000 in passive income. Passive, I'm working, but it's nice, right?
Right. So $1,000 plus the $2,000 you started with for the fee. And then of course it's not fully passive. But once it's up and running, I would say, especially like the midterm units.
Yeah, I mean, my turnovers will be 60 to 90 days. I don't need a cleaning crew in there every other day. I don't, a lot of this is going to be a little bit less labor intensive, particularly for my resources or my owner's resources. But yeah, we're very optimistic and we've been watching the competition pretty closely here. But yeah.
Yeah. And I would say, honestly, I have a handful of units in the same region, not Peoria, but the same, a couple hour drives away, and $2,500 to $3,000 for a midterm rental of that size is extremely realistic for the Midwest.
Yeah.
If you're out in probably like California, I know that they're a lot higher, or a different state.
For sure.
But for these properties, do you have any idea how much the owner bought it for or no?
I wish I had it on hand. I know I could pull it, but I don't offhand.
Yeah. Probably pretty cheap if I had to guess.
Yeah, she did. She bought it pre-renovation. I think she might have even bought it on an auction sale. So she got a great deal. She bought it with the intention to do what we're doing. So this has always been the focus. But she lives in New York. She lives in the Bronx. So it's difficult to measure. So like manage this from afar. And she's got 2 little ones and like there's just a lot going on.
Right. For sure. Cool. A couple more questions to wrap it up, then we'll jump into Q&A and all the fun stuff, because I know we got a ton of people asking questions. I've got 2 more main ones for you. Number 1, favorite part of the program. What is it?
Yeah, I think so. And I saw it in the chat a few times. I got very fortunate. I'll never put down the importance of a referral, but that referral would not have happened without coming into this group and putting myself in the right spot to get it, right? Yeah. But I do think that what this group taught me was a prospecting method first that I had never seen anywhere else, to actually contact owners and have success doing it at a high rate. and then a business structure to deploy so that I could operate. I mean, where else in the world can you say I set up a business in like under 6 weeks and now I have a client under contract, right? Like you gave me a business model so that I could buy or find a client and bring them into it, have them buy into my model, and then deploy it instantly. And that I wouldn't have had the bones and the structure to do that without the course. So both of those, I think the ability to find deals and then the business to actually take that deal and sell it is really what the course gave me. And now the ongoing support of, we have the accountability groups, we have the weekly trainings, we have sessions like this. It's been awesome to come on here and share my story. So like it's continued engagement within the group, if nothing else, just to keep the positive vibes going.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate that. And the other thing too is the word luck, right? Like, oh, you got lucky. Oh man, you got lucky. Like honestly, we all create our own luck. Like
But how do you define that luck? Was I lucky, you know, choosing Chicago or having this be my area or getting the group when I did, or right? But it all starts with like, I committed to this idea, I got in the position, and then I was willing and open to manage something anywhere really in greater Illinois. And I think that's where the success was. And then you guys were awesome enough to plug me up with somebody who, you know, Renee wanted somebody regionally who was accessible. And thankfully that was me. So it was a good fit.
Right. And I'm sure you find this too. I know you're doing the social media, you're doing the realtor, you're doing the Airbnb, but the more work you put in, the more action you take, the more lucky you get.
Yeah. Well, I kid you not. And I don't mean this to sound like I'm overselling things, but I have actively turned down some other STR opportunities. And people hearing that right now are probably cringing, like, why the hell didn't you send them to us? I have some of them that I'm staying in touch with who may very well proceed with other members of the group. But the reality is these people are in need of this service. Oh, yeah. I'm just choosing right now. I'm like, man, I'm busy setting up this first property. I want to get it going. So I'm holding off on expanding rapidly until I get through it, right? It's a personal decision. But I think there are a lot of people who, the second you start operating on property one, if you just share the story of it, you're going to get contacted, and you are definitely going to have other people who are experiencing insert pain here with their short-term rental business that they're just going to want you to fix. And that's really all this is. Like, it's not a hard sales pitch, because I think many people have built up this management process to be a pain. And a lot of it is because they don't know how to do it. They just haven't had somebody show them the right way to do it. For sure. So I'm getting a lot of messages about learning more about the mentorship program. So we're not done with Matt, but if you're interested in booking a call with me to learn more about it, drop the link down below in the chat box and the comment section. So if you are interested in booking a call with me to learn more about the program that Matt's a part of, go ahead and drop or sign up on the Calendly link, schedule a call with me one-on-one. We can chat more about the program. One more question I have for you, Matt, and then we'll jump into the Q&A and everything like that, is for those looking to join this program, just get started with co-hosting, but they're like, I don't know, I think I can just figure it out on my own, like just hesitant overall. What would you say? I'm all for anybody trying to do something on their own. And I think you probably could, but it will involve a lot of pain. And this is a complex process. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of people to manage. And I think that the tips that I got from the program helped me get through those without having to have some of the learning pains on the spot. Because what I wanted to avoid, I'm fine failing personally. I have no problem if I learn through the process through failure. What I wanted to avoid was putting a client in a position where my failure impacted them. And I think what the program gave me was confidence that I could deploy a high quality product, something that I can charge 20% for literally, plus a $2,000 setup fee, confidently, because I know it will work. I know that the program itself will optimize a listing, we'll get it rented out, we're going to have success. So I think that was what I took from this, was the ability to really launch that business like that. Love it. And before we get into, again, the ending Q&A, first, congrats. Guys, wish Matt a big congrats in the comment section. Seriously, awesome of what you've accomplished. I know you're juggling a handful of things, but super excited for you. Glad you got into the co-hosting business, made another branch of your existing business. Super complimentary, gonna be awesome, and super excited to see the properties that you already have up and running. Oh yeah, absolutely. I can't thank you enough for getting this idea stuck in my head. And now it's more, content that's coming soon. So I will have photos going live of the property here
Cool.
soon, before and after, to share some of the experience. I'm just excited to share the journey with everybody.
Love it. Love it.
Awesome. Let's go through um all of the Q&A. We want to make sure that we're dedicating time to this. I don't see Matt anymore.
Wait, hold on. Yeah, I turned off Matt on accident. There we go.
Oh, okay.
Matt's
Perfect.
back.
You guys have asked a lot of great questions and we won't leave until all the questions are answered. So I'll start to read
Yes.
these questions for Bailey and Matt. So let me just go down and start with Austin. You can 100% do this remotely. As you saw from this training, Bailey and Matt, anything, if you want to add anything to that. If not, I can move on to that next question.
Yeah, remotely, totally possible.
Yeah, spot on. Just have the resources in place. You can definitely do it.
All right, from Gen C, was there anything more you wanted to go through on that $2,000 setup fee?
Yeah, I mean, again, think of the setup fee. I understand in some people's minds, particularly if you work like line item by line item, it's like, what does that fee actually mean? For me, the setup fee was related to the cost that it was going to be to set up the property. So truly like time cost on me to design and order furniture and get things implemented, the actual physical cost of getting some of our technology and subscriptions set up and in place so that we can start operating on all these different websites. So you need to take stock on what you're actually going to need to operate your business. But that setup fee was meant to be a buffer against the costs that I knew I would incur early on and just getting things up and running for the business, right? And that's how I think about that.
Awesome. Austin, is it better to target people who already have an Airbnb but want someone to manage it for them instead of literally starting and creating an Airbnb business for them?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like there's big pros and cons to both of them. I do both. Students do both. I wouldn't say that there's like a right or wrong or one that's better than the other. Both are totally possible.
Yeah, I feel like I'm sort of in between. She knew she wanted to do the Airbnb, but I'm definitely helping her deploy it from start to finish.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's way more labor intensive on you as a manager if they're deploying from nothingness to now than if they already have it all furnished, operating, and you're just optimizing it.
Right.
To Bailey's point, though, the trade-off is this is like my baby. I've helped her from start to finish. So if something is wrong with it, I know about it at this point. It's not like I'm inheriting somebody else's, setup and I have to problem solve or diagnose what's not working.
Right. You typically get a larger setup fee when you set it up. So if you're taking over existing,
actually set up. Yeah.
Yeah. So although you're doing more work in the beginning, you're doing it right from the start. So there's really, I don't know, there's definitely pros and cons to both. Just want to give a quick shout out to Kristen for booking a call. Kristen, looking forward to chat with you about your business or about starting your coasting business. So congrats. Claire, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. Can you speak from Kristen? Can you speak more to the day-to-day responsibilities of what is automated?
Yeah. So, I mean, at this point, certain things I have set up so that people know what they're supposed to be doing. So automation can be as simple for me as like just setting up in advance throughout the week what day somebody needs to go. We know furniture is coming on Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I talk to my runner on Monday and let her know, hey, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday, I need you to be at the property. We get it set up. She just sends me a message when she's done. It's all set, right? So, I mean, some of this, if you want to actually, pay for systems to automate your process management, you certainly could. But in terms of just the day-to-day operation, where at least we're at right now, it's a lot of people management. I'm just making sure that the right people are doing their job to make sure we're proceeding forward. And then every single day, at the end of the day, I kind of just take stock. Okay, what got accomplished today? What still needs to be done? And then I'm reporting back and forth with Renee about once a week. We talk kind of infrequently throughout the week as well, but we have once a week check-ins just to see, okay, did you hear anything from the contractors that I didn't hear? We update each other on the progress of the work and we're scheduling whatever's needed. So, I mean, early on, it's big communication and delegation of roles. That's what you're going to be doing when you set up your property. Once you're up and running on Airbnb and everything, then you can use automated pricing tools. And then that's when we talk about optimization. But in the physical setup process, it's no different than if you're managing contractors of your own home. You're just dealing with management.
Yeah, for sure. And then, yeah, just to touch on the once you're up and running piece of it, we do automation for a lot of our communication. So when,
communication, the actual pricing, like all of it has some kind of tech automation aspect to it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even talking with our vendors, our cleaners.
Yeah.
I don't want to be texting them for all my properties to clean which unit when, and I want my automations and my systems and my my technology to do it for me. And that's what it does. So a lot more.
Frankly, not even chat. I mean, I just copy pasted those templates, right? That's how I have my automation in place for my business now. But early on, you can't automate hiring a cleaner. We could try.
Of course.
I would probably launch a business if you can do that, but yeah, it's hard.
For sure.
Perfect. Let's see. Can you speak more on how to get clients aside from a referral? So I do want to preface, we do have a whole training specifically going over the strategies to get clients, but I would love just for everyone who's on the training, obviously we can't go in depth into everything, but Bailey or Matt, or I guess Bailey, if you want to go through like some of the top strategies for the group, I think that'd be helpful.
It was the strategies, except for what did they already know?
Aside from referrals.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, my favorite one's referrals, but yeah, there's a lot of other ones as well. One popular one that we talked about on a training and got extreme great feedback from is actually calling long-term rentals and saying, hey, I saw your property on like Redfin, Zillow, Trulia. Have you thought about turning this into a short-term rental or a midterm rental? That's one huge one where you go do, again, try it one time and I guarantee you they're going to say no. Try it 100 times and then send me a DM letting me know what you found. So that's a great one, is just talking to people who already have rental properties, whether that be meeting people at meetups as well that have rental properties. It doesn't have to just be cold calling landlords or whatever. Like networking is huge. And on the referral note, referrals, I think when people think of referrals are like, oh, like my friend gave me this referral or whatever. It could also be, I went to this meetup, right? I got lucky by going into, being in the right place, by meeting people, telling people what I'm trying to do. And then they had somebody who was interested. That happens quite a lot. It's definitely not unheard of. It's definitely happened for me and a lot of students as well. It's just getting kind of like back to like the branding and just identity piece. That's one piece to get referrals as well. And maybe they're not even called referrals. Maybe it's just maybe it's called people just noticing you because you're putting it out there.
I'm such a huge advocate for social media always, but I do think that if you're specific, if you know what region you want to focus in, whether you live there or not, there are plenty of regionally specific groups that you can get involved in. So for example, I found a lot of my contacts, my runners, through just getting in. It was like a Greater Peoria, Illinois. I think it was just a Greater Peoria, Illinois community Facebook group. And that's where I started. But there's a lot of them that are like Peoria, Illinois landlords, or Peoria, Illinois short-term rental managers, Peoria, Illinois furniture distributor, like anything sort of loosely tied to this. I think if you just got in and within the confines of the group rules, post about what you do and the services you offer, you'd be surprised the outreach that people will give. There are people who are doing this and dissatisfied with how it's going, either with their current management or with doing it on their own, that just don't have the ambition or the answer to find somebody else to do it for them. So if you put it in front of their face, you could get lucky.
For sure. And people who are not doing Airbnb either right now, who doesn't want to get an Airbnb? I mean, I think it's definitely a hot thing that people are itching to do. Before we get into the next question, I know Claire just dropped the link down below to that free training on actually how to land your first coasting client. So we go through a lot more in depth than we just did, of actually strategies to find coasting clients. And then she also dropped the link down below to book a call with me if you're interested and you're actually serious about starting and growing an Airbnb business. A link to a call with me that you can book down below.
Perfect. Okay, another question. I'm new to co-hosting. Can you explain all the responsibilities we need to do in co-hosting?
Yes. So with co-hosting, here are the responsibilities. First, I always describe this when I'm talking to an owner, like on a high level that I can do completely remotely that they totally understand is marketing and pricing. Marketing primarily through the biggest platforms there are, aka Airbnb and Verbo, that are spending like a lot of money, millions of dollars to market towards people. I just use their platform. They do the marketing for me essentially. Second of all, pricing. I handle pricing. I'm in charge of the revenue of what we're bringing in. Those are two of the biggest things I handle personally. Then things that I manage for them is the vendors. So the cleaners, handymen, maintenance people, all that stuff, lawn care. I manage that for them. I don't actually do it, but I manage it. And then I also handle guest communication, talking to the guests and handling all of those communications. Those are like the main responsibilities of a co-host. Pretty much the way I describe it too is the owner doesn't have to do anything except just make sure their mortgage is paid, insurance, taxes, basic expenses are paid. Besides that, we take care of the rest.
All right. So, how to reach out to owners. I'm in Australia and there isn't much Facebook groups for these. I've searched. So definitely go ahead, watch that free training. It goes in depth on like the top 5 strategies. And if Facebook isn't one of them, you can utilize the other 4 strategies. I don't know, Matt or Bailey, if there was anything more you wanted to add for that.
I think that I love the idea of just thinking about landlords in general. I think this opportunity is right for many landlords. They just haven't thought about it. So, I mean, the course, and I'm careful here not to reveal too much, but it is definitely gives you strategies that make it a lot easier to get and contact, get info for landlords and contact them. But I do think that that is a great focus. If you can just find people who would benefit from this approach to making income, but aren't currently utilizing it, that's an easier sell in my mind than trying to find people who, don't or aren't doing anything related to it.
For sure.
This is a good one from Andrew. So how do you start with no experience in real estate, some hospitality, and no referral? I just want to preface, this is, if you guys can kind of walk through, like, let's say Andrew's on with a homeowner and they're saying to Andrew, well, that's great, you want to do co-hosting, but you have absolutely no experience. Why should I hire you?
Yeah. And I just want to say
Take
one
it a
quick,
step further.
yeah, one quick thing too. Matt started with all those boxes. Yes. He got a referral. But I want to say, number one, he put in every other step and including that step of actually closing the client. And I'll tell you, and he touched on it earlier, but I'll talk about it again. But also a lot of students as well start the exact same way I'm about to share. And this is what Matt leveraged as well, is instead of saying to them, like, I have zero experience, zero idea, it's going in honestly with more of a sense of confidence, whether you have confidence from literally just watching these trainings, because we have trainings that literally go in depth of how to find clients, how to pitch landlords or pitch owners, how to set up properties, how to manage the day-to-day. If for you, that means that you feel fully confident to do it and you can go in and tell them with confidence, the whole thing is confidence. The properties, these are big assets, whether it's $100,000 property or $1 million property, they're big assets for these people. They want to know that it's going to be taken care of. So I talk a lot about like the know, like, and trust factor. So first of all, they have to know you. That's like the lead generation. Then they have to like you. So if you sit there and you're like, yeah, I can coast your property, they're not going to like you and they're not going to trust you. You have to build a relationship with them. That's another reason why I always recommend start with an area that you actually know. Because if I can talk to someone and be like, oh yeah, I love Asheville, North Carolina. Like me and my buddy always go out there. Have you been to that one brewery? Like if you can talk about it and build rapport with them, that will go a very long way. And then of course, like the trust factor, you'd be surprised. That's not always do I trust that this person has the most experience in the entire world? It's not always the case. I've especially when I first started, and Matt, our first clients respectively, we were the first ones.
Yeah.
We were the first properties. So people understand that everyone starts somewhere. Number one, they have to know they can trust you. And what Matt was talking about earlier of leveraging a community, I can tell you, I did that when I first started real estate too. I raised hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of capital to buy properties too. And I was like 19, 20 years old. I didn't do that because of my good looks or because of anything. None of it was family. None of it was even referrals. It was literally just getting surrounded by people and saying, I'm with this person. Like I'm with this person, right? And that goes a very long way.
I think that's the biggest part of it too, is that, I mean, you have the group to reference if people want specific examples of success, but I think from those examples of success, the bigger point is that they're all deploying the same framework, right? All the students or Bailey himself, like the framework for success and managing these properties and maximizing the return that they're bringing in is universal. So that's what these people are really buying into. You're the operator of that business and they're trusting you to manage it, but the system is tried and true, and that's what you're delivering to them, whether you've done it before or not.
For sure.
Cool. Let's see here.
I see we got still a ton of questions, guys. Claire, again, dropped a couple links down below, whether you want to check out another free training of ours or book a call with me. I know we already have a couple calls scheduled. So if there's any spots left, feel free to book a call with me. If not, keep firing away at the questions. We do not leave until all questions are answered. Unless, Matt, you have to go, I'll stay on.
Yeah. I was going to say,
unfortunately, I do need to drop because I have to take another call here, but it was great
Yeah.
talking with all of you. And sincerely, if anybody ever wants to get in touch and just talk about this process, please reach out. Matt Thomas, Baird & Warner Real Estate in Chicago. You can find my information pretty much everywhere online. Happy to connect.
Yeah, thank you. And we're going to drop Matt's Instagram down below as well. Just give us 30 seconds to get that together, but we'll drop his Instagram down below. Give him a follow and feel free to shoot him a DM. Let him know that you heard him. And
I do respond to DMs.
And so Matt's going to go, but Bailey and I will be staying on to answer all questions. Again, Matt, thank you. Thanks, so much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Of course.
A virtual round of applause. Woo.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for everything that you've done and best of luck. Talk soon.
Thanks, Matt.
Cool. All right, Claire, we got tons of questions coming in.
Yep.
We still have a ton of people on. Let's go for it.
From Ronald, super cool. What short-term rental software do you recommend if my company is planning to co-host 150 properties by end of 2023 and 400 plus by end of 2027? I heard a lot about Guesty.
Wow, Ronald, you guys are absolutely killing it over there. There's a bunch of different rental softwares you guys can use. Guesty is one of them. Hostaway is another one that's geared towards scaling. But Ronald, maybe we got to have you on for a training session. But yeah, Guesty's awesome. Hostaway, to be honest with you, every single channel manager, PMS has pros, has cons. I use Hostaway right now. I recommend for newbies to start with Hospitable. Super simple, super a lot easier to get up. Once you have some scale going, 15, 20 units plus, Hostaway is my preferred option.
Perfect. From Facebook. So Jack says, I use credit lines to purchase my portfolio. What do you guys use to fund your acquisitions? So I know, like, obviously this whole training is on co-hosting. Bailey does have experience with purchasing properties. He did just close on a property last week. So if you want a high level, I know you already talked about like raising capital. If you want just like high level, go through some of those strategies for sure.
Buying property, you can get a conventional, which, go to your bank, tell them you're buying a rental property. I'm not too technical with terms, but there's loans for that. If you don't have great, a lot of experience, but you have some cash, you can get what's called a DSCR loan, where they don't look at you as much, but they look at the property and make sure you have money in the bank and good credit score, stuff like that. Of course, raising capital, you can be as creative as you want with it. I love that you use a credit line, got scrappy, dozens of ways, I would say, that you can fund properties.
Awesome. Okay, Madison, this is a great question. It's like the opposite for Bailey, but have you ever started a new Airbnb for somebody and a couple months into it, the owner wanted to back out? So this is a good one if you want to tell
Yeah.
that story.
Yeah. I've never had an owner that like starts an Airbnb is like, oh, I'm done. I think some of that is setting the expectations up front and letting them know, like this is what you can expect. Also, like seasonality. If you're entering the bad season and they don't know that, well, then their expectations might be thrown off. That hasn't happened to me, but I'm just brainstorming here. One thing that has happened to me though is I was actually co-hosting someone's property, and after a couple of months, not even, I actually backed out of the deal, backed out of co-hosting their property. I Same thing with me. I set expectations with the owners. Hey, this is what you can expect from me and my service. The owner was like, yeah, okay, it makes sense, makes sense. Then when I started co-hosting their property, they were like way too much involved, texting me way too much about the property. And I said, like, I can't do this. Like, I already have a bunch of properties. I don't need somebody who's going to text me over every little message that I get. So I actually parted ways with them and said, listen, I'm done, in a respectful way, of course. Like, I'm done co-hosting your property. I wish you the best of luck.
I remember that. Okay. Um, does the owner pay for everything, including advertisements? Also, how do you pay vendors if owner lives out of state and you do as well?
Yes. So as far as advertisements, that is paid for by the owner. As far as like paying for advertisement, there's really not much you actually have to pay for to advertise a property. Airbnb and Verbo do 90+% of the advertising for me, and my calendars are filled up very nicely. If you wanted to use a site like Furnish Finder, there's a small fee for that the owner will pay for. But yeah, owner will pay for everything. And then how do they actually pay for it? Credit cards, debit cards. So we'll Venmo. Sometimes our owners will send them money through PayPal, all using the owner's credit card. But that's how we send it. Sometimes different vendors, we have lawn people who will send an invoice at the end of the month. At the end of the day, we use the owner's credit card or debit card. Just the means that we distribute the money through changes depending on the vendor. So yeah.
Yeah, and then I do want to preface, like, we do like to work with a lot of mom and pop shops. So sometimes they don't have they don't want to like use something where they can send an invoice, and that will be basically you sending a payment from your bank account and then getting reimbursed at the end of the month. I would say 90% is you're always going to get reimbursed if for whatever reason you have to use your card. But 90% is used with the owner's credit card, and then anything else is reimbursed at the end of the month. So, do you need an LLC for starting co-hosting?
Yeah. So we do not give any legal or accounting advice. So I cannot give any legal or accounting advice. I will say that I have an LLC for my co-hosting business. And I don't have any recommendations. I guess I would say to anyone who's starting a business that an LLC, every business I start, I have an LLC for. So if you're starting a business and you want to follow, I would do the same. But definitely not legal advice at all.
Perfect. I think so far it looks like we're all caught up on Facebook Live and the Zoom here.
Okay, cool. I still see a bunch of people on, so I know there's more questions. I know, Claire, you just threw the chat down below again to schedule a call with me. If you guys are serious about starting and growing a co-hosting business and want to join a program, you heard from Matt himself. He's one of our successful students. We have a lot more students in the program who are crushing it as well. If you guys need help, want to actually grow a co-hosting business, feel free to sign up for a call. We can kind of chat through. First, I want to learn more about you, see if it's even a good fit. If it is, we can walk through the details of the program on the call. Usually on those calls, at the very least, worst comes to worst, you walk away with a game plan. I give you some resources on what you can do if you're not a good fit for the program. So if you're kind of on the fence, but you're actually if you're on the fence about booking a call, but you're for sure eager to start or grow your co-hosting business, go ahead, book a call. We can chat one-on-one, you and I, to see if the program is a good fit. Cool. Claire, any more questions coming in? I see a lot of people on, and we know that a lot of people on means a lot of questions or maybe it means people are just booking calls. But I have an ice cream cone waiting for me upstairs, but I want to answer all the questions before I go.
Yeah, right
Okay.
now looks like we're all caught up.
Okay, if we're all caught up, then we'll give another 10 seconds. As we're wrapping up, I want to say thank you guys all so much for coming tonight. Honestly, congrats to you guys for showing up, just coming here, learning. That's like the first step in the whole process. So congrats to everyone who booked a call. If you haven't already, again, you have the opportunity, links down below. If you guys have questions, we have a free Facebook group. Please ask your questions. We are here to help you guys along your Airbnb journey as I continue to grow my Airbnb business, and Claire expands her real estate business as well. We are here to help you. We have a whole community on Facebook that's there. We have our whole program that's there to help you guys as well. Claire dropped the link down below to that as well. So thank you all for coming, and I will see you all later. Peace.